The Little Lost Penguin. Hey everyone, Templar74 here with another episode of PokeTalk, and today's episode of PokeTalk is going to be my review of the latest episode of Pocket Monsters 2019, Episode 8, Don't Lose Piplup, the Drift Ice Race in the Sinnoh region. And I gotta be honest with you guys, after the last episode of Pocket Monsters, which aired 2 weeks ago, the Battle Frontier episode, which was a more heavy, serious, battle-focused episode, which I think is unanimously agreed on that was probably the best episode so far. This episode went back to the more of the lighthearted comedic kind of episode. The lighthearted comedic episode, let's just leave it at that. And you guys all know that I am not a big fan of the forced humor kind of thing in anime here. But this episode, though, the light humor was done in a way that actually made the episode enjoyable, in my opinion. It was an enjoyable episode. It was a decent episode. Like I said, it wasn't really as great as the last episode, but this episode was definitely a good episode in the aspect that it did give me a little bit of a chuckle this morning, which was really something I needed considering how my morning has gone so far. But I digress on that whole thing. Like I said, decent episode, so at risk of further rambling, let's talk about the actual episode. So the episode begins with Ash and Go, and they're actually exploring around, and they end up finding this swarm of Tentacool. And they find this swarm. Go is intent that he's going to capture one. Again, the Go capture spree here. Again, not really a great aspect in my opinion. It's kind of getting a little dry. But that whole bias aside, Go ends up catching a Tentacool, and after he does this, they see this weird thing running right towards them on the water, or coming towards them through the water. And Go is intent that he's going to capture whatever it is, and it actually turns out to be none other than an exhausted and depleted Piplup who jumps out of the water and right in front of him, and you could tell that this Piplup is completely exhausted. So Ash and Go immediately rush it back to Sakuragi Institute to feed it, and when Koharu shows up, they try to show it to her, but Piplup's nowhere to be seen. It turns out Piplup's been swimming in the sink there, and it's at this time that the Sakuragi Institute gets a call from Misaka. She's a trainer in the Sinnoh region, and she's calling, inquiring about her lost Piplup, and they realize, hey, this is the same Piplup. Ash and Go agree to take Piplup back to the Sinnoh region to Misaki, which of course marks Go's first time to the Sinnoh region. This is Ash's second trip to the Sinnoh region. And I do want to say something real quick here on this note, because this irritates me and drives me nuts when I see this in real life, and it kind of did here too. Ash arrives in the Sinnoh region. They're in the middle of the snowy area there, and Ash is wearing an open coat and shorts, and he is acting like he's catching a cold, and he's sitting there saying, I'm freezing, and Go's like, well, what did you expect? I kind of can relate to Go on this, because it drives me nuts. Going down the sidewalk here, you see people, it's the middle of winter, it's freezing, snow is blowing, it's like 12 degrees outside, and people are walking around in short sleeve shirts and shorts. I mean, really, people? It irritates me when people do this, and it especially irritates me when people wonder why they're getting sick when they do things like this. Again, has nothing to do with the episode. It's just something that drives me nuts. So anyway, I digress on that whole thing. So anyway, Ash and Go arrive in the Sinnoh region to meet up with Misaki. And when they arrive there, it's funny because Go ends up going on a capture spree again, and he catches a Mantike. And after he does this, of course, they meet up with Misaki. And when they meet up with Misaki, Piplup is kind of having the attitude of, don't talk to me. And it turns out that this is all stemming due to a rivalry that he has with Misaki's other Pokemon, Croagunk. And these two are basically kind of fighting with one another over who is Misaki's favorite. And of course, the running gag revolving around this is Misaki continuously loses her glasses, and these two take turns retrieving them for her. Basically, these two are in a rivalry to see who is Misaki's favorite. Of course, she doesn't really have a favorite here, but these two are still anxious to prove. So with that in mind, Piplup goes off screen, comes back with 2 entry stickers for the Drift Ice race and ends up slapping one on Croagunk and one on himself. And yeah, these two are going to compete in the Ice Drift race here. And of course, Ash and Go, seeing this, they want to get in on the action as well. Ash enters Pikachu, and Go ends up entering his Mantike, which he has just caught. And these Pokemon are all going to participate in the Drift Ice race along with the other Pokemon in the race. And as they're doing this, of course, they're watched by none other than Team Rocket, who are making their first appearance in gosh knows how long. So yeah, Team Rocket shows up. They're going to plot to take all the Pokemon in this race, which, let's be honest, it's nothing that we didn't expect from Team Rocket. We knew that they were going to do the same thing they always do. But on that note, I do want to say this about Team Rocket. My biggest criticism about Team Rocket, since really the original generation, is they kind of get stale after the first couple of times you see them in the new series, because we know what Pokemon they have, we know exactly what they're going to do, we know exactly how it's going to result. But this generation's a little bit different thanks to that ingenious invention of Giovanni's, the Pokemon vending machine here. I know people are critical of it and have their criticisms of it, but for me, I kind of enjoy it because it makes Team Rocket a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit more interesting every time they appear, because you don't know exactly what they're going to do, in my opinion, of course. But that being said, though, that proves true in this episode as well, when the vending machine gives them none less than a Machamp and a Baratic. And these Pokemon go in, they interrupt the race, and it's funny because as Ash and Go are dealing with Team Rocket, and we all know that Scorbunny and Pikachu, they're going to completely OP whatever Pokemon Jesse and James throw out there, but Baratic is doing something very interesting here. He's attacking the boat that all the race contenders, the human competitors, are on. And as he's punching at this ship and beating at this ship, we see Misaki, and she ends up getting knocked overboard. Well, kind of overboard. She's hanging from the ledge, and this is noticed by Croagunk and Piplup, who turn around and actually see what's going on with Misaki, and they abandon the race. At this point, they're actually in the lead because the three main Pokemon, the leaders of the race, have all been captured. Croagunk and Piplup have a chance to take the race for themselves. They see Misaki hanging from the ship like that, and of course they see her about ready to fall, so they're like, okay, let's put our rivalry aside, let's forget this race, let's save our trainer. And they immediately jump in. They actually free one of the life rafts off the ship and manage to get it under Misaki just as she falls from the ship, and she ends up landing on this raft here. And of course, the whole running gag of her losing her glasses happens again. They manage to find her glasses for her. It's a nice touching moment here that they put their rivalry aside for that. Ash and Go, of course, immediately destroy Team Rocket. They're gone, and the race concludes here. And we see that Piplup and Croagunk have kind of reconciled as the episode winds down, and Misaki bids Ash and Go a farewell as they take off. And as Ash and Go are leaving here, it's funny because Piplup and Croagunk are kind of, you know, they're a little bit more at terms now, but there's still a little bit of competitiveness between them. And it's at this point Misaki loses her glasses again. And it's not these two that end up finding her glasses this time. It's actually a Psyduck. And Psyduck brings Misaki her glasses. Misaki's thankful to this Psyduck. I think it's pretty obvious that Psyduck's going to end up with her. And Croagunk and Piplup just kind of lose it, man. They're just like, what? And that's where the episode leaves off, on that little bit of a comedic moment. And yeah, that was pretty much the episode. Like I said, not as serious of an episode and not as heavy of a battling episode per se as the last episode was. I think pretty much it's agreed that last episode was a fantastic episode. This episode was more of the light humor episode, more of the comic relief episode, but it was done in a tasteful way. It wasn't the forced comedy that I've grown to loathe Pokemon for after Last Generation. In my opinion, this was a fairly decent episode. It was a nice comedic relief episode, and it gave me a genuine giggle, which was always a good thing, a good chuckle, especially considering how my day went. So I'm thankful for the Pokemon anime for that with this episode. So anyway, those were my thoughts on the episode as a whole. I give this episode a 7 out of 10. It was an enjoyable episode. It was a lighthearted episode, a comedic episode. There are a couple of things that are still driving me nuts, like the whole gag of being out in the cold, getting sick, and like, what do you expect? And then go on the capture spree again. Those are a couple of things that this series really need to lock down. Is Koharu needs to be a little more outgoing, a little bit more enthusiastic about things, and not so much of a... how should I put this without risk of having the video taken down? Being so much of a stuck-up and goes capture spree. If they can nail those two things down and kind of fix them and tamper them down a little bit, they'd be great in my opinion. But again, I'm rambling. Those were my thoughts on the episode. And as always, everybody, in the comment section down below, let me know what your guys' thoughts were about the episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just there? What are your thoughts? Just let me know in the comment section down below, because as always, I enjoy hearing from you. Alright, everyone, as always, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day, everybody. I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.